pamba ndinogara nevana vangu 5 nemurume wangu, saka tinogara tiri 7. Togara kuEpworth kwaJaja.
My name is Melka Mawere, born Chirisa. I am 52 years old. I am single. I have 2 adult children, 26 and 24. I think it was in 2000. I felt a lump in my breast and I ignored it. And then we went through COVID with the lockdowns. And then in 2022, the lump was a bit painful. So I ignored the lump because you can see I'm a big person. So I assumed it's fat. So the children I mentioned, my 2 girls, they're in Germany. So we were just talking on app. They were on lockdown, we were on lockdown here. And so I just mentioned that my lump, I have a lump. It was the first time they've heard about the lump. That this lump is painful. I think I've put on too much weight because of the COVID, of the lockdowns. I love baking, so during lockdown I used to bake a lot, and yeah, I gave away some of it, but I ate most of it. So I assumed because I put on weight. So the girl said, Mama, please go get checked. And it was a good time for me to get checked because I'm working for an insurance company, and because of the COVID and everything else, they had scaled down. So I was made what is called an independent. So that meant I had no medical aid. I had my own medical aid, but I had stopped paying it because the premiums just kept going up, and this was in US dollars. So just to please them, it wasn't because I feared that I had cancer. It was those things happen to other people, they never happen to you. So just to please the girls, I got a letter from, that was when we were moving around with you, to get a letter to authorize you to get into town. So I asked the administrator in the insurance company I work for just to do me a letter. I got my letter. I went to the Cancer Association, and I remember it was Sister Mapunzwana, I think she's retired now. So Sister Mapunzwana did an examination, and she wanted me to go for further examination. She wanted me to go for an ultrasound. So the mention of an ultrasound, when all I had come to do was, just to please somebody, not because I feared. So when she says an ultrasound, suddenly I'm listening. So she said she felt I had a tumor. It was on the right side at the bottom of my breast, but the lump I was feeling was up here. So the next day I went for the ultrasound, and the ultrasound, you could clearly see the tumor. And when I went home, Dr. Google, so obviously I consulted Dr. Google. Dr. Google says that cancer tumors, they have sharp edges, what have you. So if you're feeling a lump and it's grapey and stuff, it's not cancerous. So that's the one I was feeling. I never felt this one. But when I went for the ultrasound, you could see all the sharp edges. So obviously things changed from there. So I went back to the Cancer Association and I cried buckets. I don't want to lie. That day I cried buckets, and so Sister Lampons wouldn't let me cry until I had finished crying. So then we had a talk. Way forward. Cancer doesn't kill. If it caught early, it can be treated. It can be expensive. It is expensive, and it's not a short-term thing. This is now your life. It means you now have to decide what you're going to do. So she's saying all this, and I'm telling her, and I don't have medical aid. So because I don't have medical aid, I cannot afford it. And she told me something that I tell other cancer patients now when people refer me to people who are starting their journey. And that is, there is absolutely nothing wrong with going to a public hospital. in Zimbabwe, despite what we hear in the newspaper and press, social media, everywhere?
My name is Love Moma Kurirofa. I'm the Information Research and Evaluation Manager for the Cancer Association of Zimbabwe. The Cancer Association of Zimbabwe is an organization that is mandated to help patients with cancer. It is responsible for cancer awareness programs, that is cancer information dissemination, to make the nation aware of cancer. We also support cancer patients by providing counseling, free counseling to them so that they understand their condition and seek appropriate treatment as early as possible.
Kutanga kwao kutotonga sirumba muchakatanga vachiti mwanangu ndikunzwa mudumbu nekuti wakangondisvarondirwa ndinoakaudza ndivandati mama atimboende kuchipatara. Patakaenda kuchipatara vachinotariswa chibereko ndofanzi mune masymptoms ecancer iri kuda kutotanga. Saka isi patakadzokera kumba sekuti vanga vasati vakunyatsorwara zvinooneka takabva tangogara sekuti ndandisina mari. Tagara mama ndopo wakazondiudza futi takaenda 2013 ndopo wakazondiudza futi anga 2017 zvikanzi ndane bundu kusikarudzi. Ndopo ndakati kuti chingava chii patamboenda kuchipatara zvikanzi icancer asiri muchibereko. Patambogara futi nekuda kwekushaya mari. Tagara anga 2021 ndipo takazoona kuti mama wakanyatsorwara nekuti ranga ratoronda kusikarudzi ratoti kurirei. Ndopa ndakati mama ini saka toita sei nandinozvo kuita plus handina mari ndingoriwa ndoitawo sei. Ndobva wambodza hama dzavo bva wangoti aisatikwaniso nekuti hatino mari. Ndopa ndakatanga kutofamba namama kutamboenda kune chimwe chipatara chinonzi Newlands bva wangobatsirwawo nemushonga wekuti marwadzi aite nani. Patambodzokawo tichigara panapa patazoenda kuHarare hospital. Patasvika kuHarare hospital vavanzi panodiwa mushonga wechemotherapy.
Because we are seeing cases where people delay to visit the hospital. In fact, in Zimbabwe, according to the Zimbabwe National Cancer Registry, 85% of the cancer cases are detected very late. In other words, they are going to hospital at stage 3 and stage 4. It's because people do not understand what exactly cancer, and they don't understand why they need to go to hospital as early as possible. So it's very important that we continue to offer those services.
Did the biopsy to take out pieces of the tumor and I had to get the actual biopsy done, and Parinyatwa's lab was not handling that, so you have to find an outside lab. And for me, the first lab I thought of was Dr. Macheka. He said find a reputable lab. He didn't tell me the lab to go to. So the first lab that came into my mind was Lancet. So I was given, they put, like those little bottles where they put, so I got my things in a little bottle and I went to Lancet. So that was the first major expense I went through to pay for the biopsy to be done.
Tasvika kuHarare hospital mama haana kurumidza kusevhwa nenyaya yekuti zvaidiwa zvaisingakwane. Vakabva vati pari kudiwa kateta, pari kudiwa zvese zvaizokwanisa kuti vaitwe operation kuti vakwaniswe kuiswa tube, nekuti tube kuti ipinde nekwaitaura vakabva vati haichakwanisi nekuti kune ronda rakakurisa. Ndobva mama wamboti mwanangu saka atoita sei. Saka dhokita ndopa akatanga kuti ndogona kubatsira hangu nekateta chitengewo zvimwe. Ndatenga zvimwe mama abva vachipa vaiswa chubu. Vatadzoka kunoku kumba vatagara ofu ichipapo wanga wangobatsirwa zvekuti wakwanise kuti weti ifambe zvikenza zvanisati zvatangwa. Vatatombogara nawo wakushandisa chubu yavo ndichitoti mama chubu inenge inotyisa tokwanisa kuzoimaintaina here. Utangonzi nemadhokita munongoita sei, munongoita so asi musazoidhonzi kuti ibve nekuti yange yaitwa operation panapa. Tagara ndopandakazonzi chiendei kuparire nyatwa munzwa kuti vanoti kudii nezvekenza. Zvechokwadi ndakaenda ndapiwa $20 nemurume wangu, pananzi $15 kudhinda kadi. but tapiwa date ratakapiwa izvi zvanzi zvelast year but tapiwa date remusi wa7 August. Ipapo pandakaenda mamuri muna May. Mama ndobva kuti mwanangu wasikuona kuti ndakufa here nekuti date rawapiwa riri kure. Handifungi kuti wandira pasi wanguona kuti ndakuda kufa. Ndati hazvisiri izvo mama wano wekenza vanototi hanzi tinombopiwa mazuva akati rebei. Chokwadi date rakasvika. But date rasvika manje handisina kana mari. Pakanyorwa chilist chawakanyorerwa. Pataenda kufamasi vananobvunza mari yainzi paudiwa 350 kuti titenge mishonga yacho yanga yakanyorwa ipapo. Saka dhera ndakaendawo ndida kunoudza kuti aina handisi kuita sei, handisi kukwanisa kutenga mushonga ipapo mukazoti ndiri kuuya ndakundikana nekuti hapana munhu angakwanisiwo kundibatsira. Ndopandakatoti ndakagara zvangu pamabhenji ndasangana nevamwe vanonzi vaimawere. Pandavaudzawo nyaya yangu ndikati apa ndakazvitakura murume wangu ashande ndangouya kuno maratidzo obika ere kuti mama wangu achakwanisa kuramba. Mamawere ndopakati ndogona kubatsira ivo. Ndichauya patatovaudza madhokita bwangondoedzera madhezi. Chokwadi mari vakambondipa patatotenga mushonga mama bva watanga kuti
For breast cancer we charge $5 and which is the clinical breast exam. Then for cervical cancer we charge $10. Then prostate cancer we charge also $10. But those are not diagnostic tests. We have to refer them if we see any anomalies. We refer them to the doctors where they collect the biopsy, and then depending with the result of the biopsy normally they send their specimens to the labs, and which is the cost as well, about $20-25 depending with the type of specimen that has been collected. And from there they'll have to go through some tests like x-rays, the CT scan, so that they'll see, they want to see the stage of the cancer, they want to see whether the cancer has spread to the surrounding areas, to the bones, to whatever area that they'll be concentrating on. So the CT scan, for example, they cost around $300 to $400 depending where they have gone to have it done. And we normally have them in the private sectors. The government hospitals, yes, they are there, but sometimes, you know, there are too many people who need to have it done there. So for most of the people, they prefer to go to the private hospitals to get those tests done. Then there are also, if they go with their tests, their CT scans and their x-rays, that's where the treatment options are deducted from, depending with the results of the CT scan. Sometimes they will be asked to have chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and any other treatment or hormonal therapy or surgery, depending on the results of the CT scan.
It had started in my milk ducts, so if I still have the milk ducts, it might come back. So I wanted both of them gone. My children were grown, and so I didn't see any need for keeping them. But obviously the surgeons didn't want to remove both. So for a while it was, we'll just do the one, because there's a lot of side effects to having your breasts removed. We'll remove the one because we have to remove that one. So I went to the radiotherapy block, and again I was given a booking date that was 2 weeks away. And remember, this was during COVID time, so everyone who was going for surgery had to be tested for COVID. So it so happened that as I was on the waiting list, everyone who was ahead of me tested positive for COVID. So by then, obviously, I was not in a good space. I was feeling low, and I was not really answering my phone. So on this, I think it was on a Monday. I think surgery is Tuesdays and Thursdays. I don't remember. I think it was Tuesdays and Thursdays. So on a Monday, I'm not picking up my calls. My phone is on silent. I look at my phone around 5 p.m. I have 12 missed calls. Dr. Macheke had called, Dr. Tutani had called, landline. I called the landline in Spariniashwa Hospital. So I called Dr. Tutani because he was the junior doctor. Why are you calling me? So he says, if you can come in, we would want to admit you for you mastectomy the next day. So this is 5, so I was supposed to get to the hospital before 7 so that I could be admitted. So obviously I rushed, got to the hospital, got admitted, and I was supposed to have surgery the next morning at, I was given a time to 2 a.m. Unfortunately, fortunately, I didn't have surgery that day because the first person that the surgeons attended to, there were complications. So that was all they did that day. So I was released and I went back home, and I was booked for the following week. So because I was in a state, I was in a state, there was a lot of crying, there was a lot of not talking to people, there was a lot of listening to loud music via earphones, not listening to anyone because I didn't want to talk. So when I was discharged the next day to come back the following week, I decided no, I needed to talk to Dr. Wazar. So I came back the next day because now because I'd seen how the system works, I knew that if I went to the hospital in the morning, I would see him when he's seeing his patients. So I came back next day, doc, my kids are grown. I am not thinking of having any more children. So I would appreciate it if you just removed both, because so obviously they didn't want. So because I'm reading a lot on Dr. Google, so they're talking about emotional health, physical health. So I was telling him, Chirimba, my emotional health, because you're going to remove the one and then I'm going to go crazy. So you really haven't helped. So reluctantly, he agreed to a double mastectomy. So the following week, I had a double mastectomy, and immediately after, I appreciated why they didn't want to remove both. Now I know biology, the lymphatic system, and everything. So I had mastectomy in June, double mastectomy in June, and immediately after I was supposed then to go for physiotherapy, because when we are healthy, we don't really know how our body works. But then I knew that your breasts are part of the lymphatic system, so blood, lymph, fluids, everything. So because of, they removed, this one was what they call, this one was done deeply because this is where the cancer was, and this one was just done to the breast, to the chest. So this one where they removed the whole breast and part of the lymph nodes, I think they removed 11 of them. The cancer had spread to the second one. So they give you your breasts afterwards. Oh yeah, that was the funny thing. So afterwards, they give you your breasts, and again, you take them to a lab for them now to test the actual cancer, to see what it reacts to, so that they now plan your next treatment.
We assist patients who are in the public domain because we think that those who are in the private, they can actually manage their condition because they afford. But when it comes to public patients, they deserve some form of assistance. We know that cancer is treated in Harare, cancer is also treated in Bulawayo, at Kupino, in Harare, at Parenyakwa. Those centers, they have the capacity to assist the patients. We know that cancer specialists that is oncologists, they are trained here in Zimbabwe locally. And as a result, in Zimbabwe, do have the capacity to manage these cancers, but there are quite a number of challenges that are still being faced. For example, the cost of the medication itself is still high, because when we are talking of these patients, most of them, they are not employed. Most of them are coming from rural areas. They need transport cost for them to come to Harare. They need transport cost for them to go to Pilo. So the cost become very high. So as much as we train our own doctors and our oncologists who are managing these cancers, the capacity still needs to be improved because cancer patients are increasing every year. In fact, according to the Zimbabwe National Cancer Registry, Zimbabwe is reporting nearly 8,000 new cancer cases every year, which is very significant. So the capacity of our public health institutions with regards to managing cancer really need to be improved. Then another area that we need to improve is the accessibility of these services. Remember, these services are very centralized. They are all available in Harare and Bulawayo. And that centralization means that there are other costs to treatment. For example, if they are what we call hidden cost, the cost of traveling to Harare, it's a hidden cost. There's also some patients who need to look for accommodation while they are undergoing treatment. It's again an extra cost for them. So we cannot assume that all patients are based in Harare. They are being reported in Harare, but they are coming from all the provinces in Zimbabwe so that they receive treatment. So that centralization is really a problem. We need to decentralize so that other facilities in smaller towns also offer basic cancer services so that patients can access the services where they are. So in a nutshell, the services are available, but the capacity really needs to be improved in order to meet the demand that we are currently seeing.
Apo chipatara zvaitotora nguva. Ndaigona kuti ndikabuda panapa makuseni namama. Inini kutodzoka kwacho kwainetsa ofuchi ndiri munhu ane vana. Nekuti aibuda makuseni ombonzi kwanotora bp uko mama vanenge vachitoita nekutochema zvichionekwa kuti munhu ari kurwara. But ndaitongotedza queue. Tozonzi endai kupungwa chandizokwanisa kutsanangura nekuti ndinoenda kuchikoro handina, but tizonzi endai kuna physician endai kupi tichingotedza queue sezvazviri, asi mama watoita zvekuchema. Dzimwe nguva ndopiwa chingoro chechikunzi vaisei pamubhedha mupushe, tichingopushawo zvimwe ndisingazvikwanisi, zvimwe zvinenge zvine magiya amene ndaingoitawo semaitiro andiri kungokwanisa ndichingotedza queue. Then kana vachipiwa mubhedha, dzimwe nguva aipiwa mubhedha kuma-12. Ine ndobva ndatoona kuti kuma-12 hapana pandichaenda, ndotongorarawo ndichisvina mugaka pachichira kuti ndizonopiwa vana mangwana makuseni ndadzoka. Kusevhwa pari pasina kukurumidza sekuti munhu aitorwara zvekuti vanhu vaisambozvinzwisisa chero vari paqueue vachaingotedzewo queue.
Normally, what I've discovered is the type of drugs that are used in public hospitals is different from the one that are used in the private sector. You find that in the government hospitals, there are the common drugs. Of course, they are common, but to a person who doesn't even have any source of income, they are quite costly. Because for one cycle, a person would need something like $100-something to purchase the drugs every 3 weeks. And this also includes the bloods that are needed, and also some of the things that they may need, which are, for example, the fluids, the cannulas, and so forth. And the total cost might be between $150 and $200. That's the government hospital, depending on the regime that the patient is getting. And then for the private sector, the drugs that they use, most of them, they are quite costly. But for them, I know that most of them, they can afford them, and it's not a problem. But which makes a very big difference to those who go to the hospital, the public sector, and to those who go to the private sector.
A typical day of chemo starts the day before. But once you're fundi, it starts days before. Before you go for chemotherapy, you have to go get your bloods taken to see how healthy you are and if you can withstand the chemo treatment. Remember, chemotherapy chemotherapy drugs are poison. So these are poisons that are killing, what are they attacking? Fast growing cells. But it means they attack everything that grows fast, they attack. So that's why you lose your hair, because your hair is constantly growing. Your lining in your digestive system, because those cells are constantly being replaced. Everything that's constantly growing is going to be attacked. So it also affects your general health. So the test you do is to see how healthy you are and if you can survive, if you can withstand, not survive, if you can withstand the poison that's going to be put in. So you go the first day, the day before. You get your blood taken. And if you're going through chemo, the one thing you start hating the most is needles. I've always hated needles. So you go and you get your bloods done, and the results, you get the results the next day. And they're looking at how healthy you are and if you can go for chemo that day. So first day, I listened to the doctors. I went for my bloods the day before, and the next day I started chemo. So because my cancer was on the right side, it means all the blood and all the needles was done on the left side.
Ndaigara namunhu panapa ndaingogara ine murume wangu nevana vangu. Uvucha handina munin'ina wekuti ndaidedza kuti ndizobatsirane kuchengeta mama. Panguva dzese ndaingoandika. Pavana manje matwins aya, vamwe vese vaisara pabati pamatwins vanga vachiri vadiki neurwere hwamama. Vairambidzwa kuenda muhospital. Ndopandaizokumbirawo manext door. Kunyanya mai panext apa ndongoti ndokumbira kuti ndikusire munhu. Vakambotanga vachiti vanoda kubatirwa, ndikati nangu handikwanisi kubhadhara, asi kana muchingokwanisawo kungondisarirawo nawo ndikuenda namo kuchipatara ndodzoka. Wazozvinzwisa nekuda kwesituation. Pakuenda kuchipatara apa, mama waizviitira. Dzimwe nguva taimboshandisa machira wasunga senepe. Dzimwe nguva ndikaonawo dhola ndotengawo pamba toenda kuchipatara, vanosevhwa todzoka kana wapiwa mubhedha usana. Pavanonzi vakudzoka, dzimwe nguva kana ndine mari ndotohaya mota, kana pasinawo mari ndokumbirawo manext door kuti ndaikumbirawo kuti munditakurawo mama wangu, kana mune zvamuda kuitirwa ndozokuitirai, kana kuwacha washeni kana kuchairwa mama ndomabatsira vaingondiita.
The Cancer Association of Zimbabwe since 2011 has been advocating for a separate cancer levy. We thought that by having a separate cancer levy, Zimbabwe can actually generate the income that is needed to support cancer patients, be it to buy the machines that are required, because we know as an association that cancer is capital and technological intensive. It requires a lot of technology, it requires a lot of capital, so having a separate cancer fund was going to be very helpful. That is what we were thinking. But when we kept on advocating with the government he was okay with that. But however, their argument made a lot of sense, because they were saying instead of having a separate fund, we need to have a health fund which can fund almost all health conditions. Because the moment we terminate a cancer levy, it means that it will be earmarked for cancer. Then maybe another disease will emerge, for example COVID-19, then we say we need a COVID-19 levy. Then another pandemic will emerge, then we say we need another levy. So they said it was not sustainable, and we also thought so. So they then come up with the issue of health fund, which I think is very important. But we still have areas of advocacy that we need to engage the government on. For example, in the health fund, what percentage will be dedicated for cancer? Because we still think that cancer is a very different disease, especially by the fact that it's both capital and technological intensive, and there is a lot of involvement with regards to cancer treatment. Almost every year, new treatment modalities are coming by. So we still need to have a certain percentage that will be earmarked for cancer in that health fund, or at least earmarked for non-communicable diseases in that pool of
health fund.
It's a tax on additional sugar in beverages. So the tax is charged based on the sugar content, additional sugar content in a beverage. So that's why you see that your mazoe has gone up now. We've always been used to buying it at around $3, $2.90. It's gone all the way up to $4. It's a tax on additional sugar. So the thinking behind that is to say, if you're going to be consuming certain products that are harmful to your health, there are what we call sin taxes. Sin taxes as in sin, the way you would know it from the Bible, something that goes against good morale. So if you've got, in terms of our sin taxes, you've got your excise duty on things like your cigarettes. Now this sugar tax is coming in as some form of sin tax as well, to discourage people from drinking these sweet beverages. There are, a lot of the cancer is associated with the consumption of sugar, excess sugar in our products, in the food that we eat, fatty foods, and many other non-communicable diseases. They are associated with the consumption of sugar. So in order to discourage people from buying a lot of this sugar drinks, the government has seen it fit to then levy an additional cost to that drink. So the idea is to discourage spending in connection with that sugar. That's the approach. So when you discourage the consumption of sugar through the introduction of a tax, you are then saying, okay, for this special excise, this excise that I've charged, or this sin tax that I'm charging you, I'm going to make sure that in the event that those that do continue to consume in excess of what they're supposed to consume, or people will remain addicted to the sugar, and they suffer the cancers, we are going to create a fund for which we are going to fund cancer treatment, cancer testing equipment, anything associated with the treatment, the testing of cancer. We are going to set aside a fund for that. And this sugar tax is meant to address that.
My support system, immediate support system were my sisters. They had to put their lives on hold to run around with me, to get my bloods taken, whatever that was needed to be done. They had to put their lives on hold. And the people from the insurance company, my workmates, they were there. They would come home, they would come to the hospital when I was in hospital. They would be there when I was having my chemo sessions. And that's the other thing. I'm saying that people just love each other. When you go for a chemo session at the radiotherapy block, sometimes it's chock full of people. When you get there, so that's the other reason why we think that public hospitals, there's always too many people. 2/3 of those people are ambulances. They're not getting treatment. They're there for someone. So I also used to have workmates, and my sisters, they would come with me and they would wait outside until I finished my session. So sometimes there would be no place to sit, and so if then they would ask, can we just have patients? Then you realize, guys, there's only 20 of us here. There's more than 100 people, so maybe we saw anyone like 5. So that for me is the biggest support system I had with the other cancer patients. workmates, my family especially, and whether you believe in God, a Christian God, whatever God you believe in, you learn to pray. You learn to pray and you realize that your life is not your own, and you appreciate that whatever you're going through, you need other people. You are not an island. You need someone for something. That's my biggest takeaway. And that was my support system.
Mari takaenda kuchipatara dai varipo. Takavanonokera tikazoenda navo kuchipatara varwarisa. Ofu uchidai hama dzavo waigara uchingodai hama dzangu dzaiva unondiona pamwe ndaipora. Taitongogara vachizvishuru izvozvo. Vachidai hama dzangu dzaiva kunondiona. Saka ndozvandotoona kuti dai takabatana nehama dzamama vachiuya unovaona vachindibatsirawo sezvavaitaura kuti mwanangu dai pai anokubatsirawo kuwacha magumbezi angu kana ndazvimesera so izvo ndozvaigara vachida, ndozvavakangofowa vachingotaura kuti mwanangu vanhu vakuregerera. So ndozvandotongoona kuti dai paine mari nguva yacho iyo dai mumwe wangu ari.
I would have thought there should have been an excise duty on cigarettes as well. Why? Because, cigarette is quite a cancer-causing substance, or already it's subject to special excise. There's an excise duty on that. The funds that are collected on things like cigarettes are meant to cater for cancer patients. Those that then get affected by the effects of cancer would then be assisted by government through some of these funds that are set aside for that purpose. So sugar tax is one of those sin taxes that have also been introduced in order to assist patients with getting treatment for cancer and other non-communicable diseases.
Unfortunately, the number of patients are increasing every year in Zimbabwe, and the organizations that are dealing with cancer cannot cope with the demand with regards to cancer medications. But it's a service that should continue to be offered, because we have seen that almost every patient requires some form of support. Why? Because cancer is very expensive when it comes to treatment. We are seeing other patients selling all their assets in order for them to access treatment, and as a result, that service should be offered. They should be assisted with the drugs, they should be assisted with the other costs that are needed when they are accessing treatment. So it's very important that this service continue to be offered, because patients are very vulnerable because of the cost of cancer, and very few of them are covered by medical aid. I think you know that in Zimbabwe, the medical aid covers less than 10% of the population. So most of them are supposed to pay for cancer treatment using out-of-pocket expenditure, which is not sustainable, which is not bearable. So they deserve to be assisted.
It's the same concept with taxes as well. If you were to increase the tax, the question that you have to ask is, are we going to introduce a new tax altogether, or are we going to just increase the taxes that are already existing? Either way, at the end of the day, the pinch is felt in your pocket. So, however government decides to mobilize revenue, either through increasing of taxes or introducing new taxes, whichever way they find suitable, the ultimate result is that your disposable income will go. It will be much less, because the cost increases. So with the introduction of a new tax, the only challenge is that it comes with its challenges. For example, coming up with a new law altogether, you have to go through public consultation. And then there are also administrative aspects associated with the collection of that tax. At what point is it supposed to be collected? Who is going to be responsible for the collection of that tax? What returns are supposed to be filed? So that would increase, from a taxpayer's perspective, it may also increase even the compliance cost, because if it takes you 5 hours to do all the returns associated with the business that you run, and you are delta over and above the other taxes that you're paying, your VAT, your income tax, your pay as you earn, you also have a sugar tax to worry about, special excise duty on that. That would increase the burden. The burden not only from a disposable income perspective, but also even from an administration perspective. So ideally, you would want a situation where there are already taxes that are there already, like what they did with the health levy. The special excise duty on airtime was already there. They simply just increased the rate and then segregated a 5% for a health fund. They could essentially do the same with the already existing taxes without introducing a new one. We already have a sugar tax. We already have special excise duty on cigarettes. We can target all the cancer-causing substances and then implement a special excise duty on those, all designated for a health fund. First of all, in order to just reduce the consumption and discourage the consumption of those commodities by making them expensive. Second of all, creating a healthier fund for obtaining the cancer equipment, improving our health facilities, amongst other developmental exploits that may be carried out within the health space.